Guys, welcome to Atlanta with the Atkinsons, my favorite city in the whole of the United States. Atlanta is in Georgia, in America, and I actually have a special affinity with the place because I lived there from the age of 21 till 25. Don't ask me how I got my dad to let me, he regrets it to this day, but I had the best time ever. So, having the opportunity to go back with my family and experience it in a whole different light, different from the one when I was 21, 22, roaming the streets. My husband is in the room, so we won't go into too much detail, but I got to see it through the eyes of a family woman, and there's so much to do. First of our list, let's get down to it, is Coca-Cola World. Coca-Cola started in Atlanta, and they have the World of Coca-Cola there. You go and you can go on this complete beverage experience where you taste all the different drinks that they have around the world. They have some mad flavors as well, like some root beer mixed with vanilla, mixed with aniseed that they'll sell in some obscure country that we haven't been to. You get to taste it. There's also the vault where you learn about the recipe of Coca-Cola, but they're not going to tell you the real secrets because otherwise we'd all be millionaires. What I loved about Coca-Cola World is that it's a completely interactive experience, from being able to taste the different beverages that they have. They also have this exhibit where you can connect between smell and taste. You get to smell some funky things and some delicious things as well, and connect them with tastes that you like. So it's something that the kids love. Like, no kid gets more excited than smelling a sock and being like, this doesn't taste like this. They also have a 3D theater where you go in and you watch a show about the history of Coca-Cola, but they make it fun. It's not like a boring old learn about our history type of show. No, this show takes you on a journey, and also what I loved about it is that it shows you all of their old advertising campaigns. Sort of like, if you ever watch Mad Men, the last episode in the final season, you'll kind of know what I mean. You'll see how they thought of the commercials that went massive worldwide, how they thought of the Coca-Cola Santa Claus truck, things like that, which kind of all resonate with us because we all, whether or not you like the drink, that branding has been like blazed into your brain from birth. There's no way I've been in this world, and we've traveled a lot, that I haven't been able to find a crisp cold Coke. And I'm only a 2 or 3 sips kind of girl, a lot of sugar. Now, if you ask my daughter what one of her favorite things to do in the city of Atlanta was, she will definitely say the Georgia Aquarium. This is the biggest aquarium I have ever been to. I've been to several. Some are, not worth talking about on YouTube, but this one, it's a monolith of an aquarium. They have these colossal tanks. They have beluga whales in there, sharks in there. They've got over 10,000 species. African penguins, tiger shark. Also, for an additional fee, you can have the experience of swimming and interacting with the animals. We didn't do that because I have no desire to swim with sharks. I've been to South Africa before, another video, we'll chat soon. No desire to swim with them at all. What we did thoroughly enjoy though was the dolphin show and the penguin exhibit. So it's entertaining for kids. My daughter was 5 at the time and she had a whale of a time. Did you get that? One of the things as well that I'm going to tell you about the Georgia Aquarium is also linking into another thing that you have to do when you're in Atlanta. The Tiny Doors Atlanta. So throughout the city, it is littered with these little art exhibits that are tiny doors. And it is literally a tiny door. You'll find it on some of their iconic landmarks like the Fox Theater of Atlanta. Or some of the venues, you do have to pay, very few of them, and one of them was the aquarium. If you go in there, you will find one of the tiny doors. I'm not sure how many they are. I'll get the information and put it at the bottom for you, or my husband will. But we spent days roaming the city, finding tiny doors in all the different neighborhoods. It's an amazing way to go discover the city, something that the little ones can completely enjoy as well. Like, there's a tiny door there. I can give you some clues if you want, but the adventure of it is getting the map or downloading the map and seeking these tiny doors throughout the city. And the perfect thing about it is that it guides you to places that were not necessarily off the beaten track, but places of note that you should visit and that you should go see when you're in the city. Now, we're talking about Georgia, so the food is plentiful, and if any of you know about down south cooking, it is a taste to behold. My husband has a thing for barbecue, so he took us on a mission to taste as many barbecue joints as we could finding all the brisket, pulled beef, all that, and you are spoiled for choice. Shout out to Fox Brothers, who I think my husband loves more than he loves me. One of my favorites, not necessarily for the cuisine, was the Sugar Factory. Now you can get the Sugar Factory across the United States. I think there's one in LA. I know there's one in Las Vegas because it's such a loud, pizzazzy type of restaurant. When they bring out your desserts, it comes with like whooping and hollering and cheering from all the staff. It is expensive and not necessarily worth it when you look at the food and you taste the food, but it is definitely an experience. However, there is another taste experience that I also would recommend, and that is the Medieval Times Banquet. So you sit there, you're in stands, and there's knights jousting for their queen. You're served by these, I don't even like to say the word, wenches. You're typically served by a wench, and she's got your pint of ale or your goblet of soda. Your food comes in this, I was trying to find the word as well, like cauldron type thing, and it's not exquisite fare by any means. It's roasted chicken and corn on the cob and tomato bisque. We were staying in Midtown Atlanta, which I completely recommend for families. You have your downtown Atlanta, you have Midtown and Buckhead. There are several other neighborhoods that you could choose to stay in depending on your style or your tastes. But Midtown was the perfect location, was great for walking places. So one of the places that we walked nearly every day while my husband was working, because he was working on Spider-Man at the time, my daughter and I would walk to Piedmont Park, which was literally 2 minutes down the street from our hotel. Now, Piedmont Park is beautiful. You'll find a range of groups of people in there. It's pretty much like Atlanta's version of Central Park. They have what we like to use as a mode of transport and getting to know the city were the electric scooters available. You can find them on many street corners, pretty easy. Download the app to watch whichever company it is that you're choosing. And we use those. My husband and I particularly enjoyed scooting around the city. A good way to use those scooters is to go on Atlanta's Beltline. The Beltline eventually is meant to encompass the whole city. So basically you can go ride through different suburbs and different areas. You can pass through the city, but you're always on a safe path traveling through the greenery of Atlanta. And there is so much, it's a metropolis city. You see the skyscrapers, you see all the big buildings, but you're always surrounded by greenery. You're very much still in the South, but in a cosmopolitan city at the same time. I think it's why it's my favorite city in the United States. Also on there, you'll find a couple of tiny doors. You'll find skate parks, you'll pass by restaurants, you can stop and have drinks, you can play a game of basketball. It's a beautiful way to see the city, a great way to get in exercise and see everything that Atlanta has to offer. Steam House Lounge, again in Midtown Atlanta. Me and my husband would race there. They have a combo deal where you can get a lobster bisque and a lobster roll. Now the lobster basically like pulls apart, covered in melted butter, and it was so cheap and affordable. You have to go there. Great restaurant, very friendly staff, and whenever we go back to Atlanta, and there's been multiple times that we've gone back, that's the first place that we have to make a stop for. Lobster bisque, lobster roll. Sounds expensive, isn't at all. After all that eating that you've been doing, and trust me, when you're in Atlanta and you're down south, you are going to be doing some eating. Before I even get like 5 miles outside the airport, I look for a Popeyes to get a biscuit. Shopping's your thing, there's plentiful shopping. There's 2 major malls. You have Lenox Mall, which has a lot more of your mainstream brands, and you can do a lot of family shopping there. And then there's Phipps Mall, which is literally across the street. Now this has a lot more high-end stores. You know, you can get your Dior, your Gucci, your Prada. I have tried to walk my husband in there several times. He walks in and then walks back out, but just letting you know that the option is out there. Speaking of all these gorgeous eateries, you will have gained a few around the midsection, but there is one great way to work it out, and that is Stone Mountain. Now it's 16 miles out of town. It took us about 30 minutes or less to drive there. 500-meter high mountain. On one side, there is a memorial to the Confederacy, which we didn't go see. But we did climb the mountain and got to the very top. And bear in mind, we did this with a 5-year-old, and it was still enjoyable for everyone involved, including my husband, who had her on his shoulders at the end. Not too steep. I think people of most abilities can do it, but for those who might need a little extra push, there is a cable car for you to get to the top, so you can enjoy the gorgeous views of the city you just came from. One of history's most notable people, Martin Luther King, was born in Atlanta, and we also got to visit his birthplace, which is located on Auburn Avenue in downtown Atlanta. Now his birth home has been perfectly preserved. it is a historical monument. We weren't able to go inside, but we were able to go into the backyard, observe the front of it. It's actually located opposite the Museum for the Civil Rights, which is also a really informative day out for the family. And on that same development is also the Ebenezer Baptist Church where Martin Luther King used to preach. So we had a really interesting time learning about that history. We were there during Black History Month, so it really hit home how profound and important Martin Luther King was in history. And I'm so glad that we got to take our little girl to see his birth home and the place where he preached, and to see that history was made on these very streets. Now, if you're out downtown, less than 10 minutes drive in the car is also the neighborhood of Little Five Points, which is quite cute and hipstery. There's lots of cool bars and little eateries. We stopped there for a bite to eat. We found a couple of Tiny Doors, a lot of thrift stores. Very cool, probably too cool for me. What I love most about Atlanta is the people. People from down south generally tend to be friendlier, and Americans as a whole I think are friendlier than us Brits. The Georgians, those down south, are so warm and welcoming. I'm not going to do the accent because I'm not very good, but yes ma'am. We have the best time when we're there. We've stayed in several hotels, from the Wheatley to the W to the Four Seasons. You're spoiled for choice with hotels, from high end to budget. Again, with restaurants as well, you can eat well in any price range. And there's an amazing party scene. Now, since this is a family channel, and I'm telling you what to do with your family in Atlanta, although all of these things you can do alone or as a couple, I'm not going to talk about the legendary nights out I've had in Atlanta. What I'm going to do is list them in the description, 5 places that you need to go. I was single at the time, so I don't want to hear nothing from my husband when he reads it. Atlanta has a baseball team, an NFL team, an NBA team, so make sure that you get time to catch that game while you're there. We went to see the Atlanta Hawks play. I don't remember who they played, not important, not really into that. What I was into was the cheerleaders and then the Jumbotron. My daughter tried her hardest to get featured on the Jumbotron, which is what I like to see in my little girl. What I've loved about Atlanta, I love the music scene the most. A lot of like the songs that I party to, that I have memories of dancing to in the club. So from Atlanta's big producers and singers and rappers, you know, Jermaine Dupri's Welcome to Atlanta. I used to play sad Jagged Edge songs if I had a breakup. Never happened, no one broke up with me. Monica, 112. These are all the old artists that I love that are born and bred in Atlanta. So their music scene to me is very much emblematic of that city. The music is like the street art, it's everywhere. It completely surrounds the city. A good way to see it as well is by following the Beltline. There are some gorgeous pieces, some profound pieces. We've stopped mid-walk or mid-drive to take in a piece of art on the streets. You know, we see street art in a lot of the places we go, and one of the places I always talk about the street art is Berlin, but my husband and I are in complete agreement that we think Atlanta has some of the best, no, if not the best street art that we've ever seen. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy this city as much as I love it.